recording now. So it is 6:04, and we'll start the Community and Business Relations Committee. What we have before you this evening is an initiative that the Village Board had prioritized in 2020, but it was delayed until 2021 due to COVID and us adapting to our new meeting environment and how to facilitate different modes of communication with each other. So the specific initiative, which was an educational series on historic preservation, I believe that Trustee Carpenter is actually the board member who brought this one forward in 2019 for 2020 prioritization. So thanks for being on this committee tonight, Trustee Carpenter, so we can go through this. At the time, the village had partnered with the Shorewood Historical Society, and I have had the opportunity and the fortune of working with Karin de Hartog and Kathy Keene in coordination with the State Historical Society in order to develop this proposal that's coming to you this evening. Initially, our partnership was developed because the Historical Society was going to pay for the transportation of the state in order to come to Shorewood in order to do the educational series. But lo and behold, COVID has worked to our advantage. And I think one of the benefits that we're going to be having in this virtual environment is the ability to have them do a 3-part series. It would be considered an adult library program. So we would partner with the library as well in order to provide a 3-part series, which would be part 1 focused on the history of Shorewood and where we've been on this topic. Part 2 would be a more detailed review of a 2011 architectural survey that the Shorewood Historical Society received for village properties. And the third would be the State Historical Society providing an overview of options that communities have an availability to consider with regards to preserving their historic structures. The purpose of the series is education and to also leave a record of where we've been. This topic has been discussed typically about every decade for the last 30 years. And so we want to bring that, memorialize those conversations, and then we want to get public feedback. So at the conclusion of this, we would be launching a Google survey virtually, but then we'd also have an article put out in Shorewood Today that would highlight the educational series and then also provide some of the policy questions that we want residents to weigh in on that would encourage them and then drive them to the survey database. And so I believe by the end of June or July, let's see here, the survey would conclude at the end of June, and then we'd prepare a memo summarizing some of the public feedback that we've heard to provide to the village board. Then the village board has a decision to do what they want from there. But on this topic, there's definitely different thoughts about how to proceed. So we wanted to try to find a good way to capture that public input. I do have Karin de Hartog, who's on the phone, and Kathy Keene. So if both of you, if I've missed anything that you'd like to review with the group, please feel free to chime in.
Good. Good to start with.
Some of the, we had a really great time brainstorming different ways to connect with the community to get this education series out. So it will be a partnership of that, the Historical Society doing outreach, the village doing some outreach, and then also the library. The Historical Society will be communicating with property owners to purchase birthday markers to learn more about the history of the village and potentially their home. They'd reach out to their Shorewood Historical Society members. The village would reach out to local realtors, the School of Architecture and Urban Planning, the Business Improvement District, multi-tenant commercial buildings, village committee commissions, and then the library would also reach out to Shorewood library patrons. And if anyone has more suggestions, I actually put them all in here so that if somebody thought of one that we weren't thinking of, we could get them added onto the list.
This is fantastic work, Rebecca. I really appreciate all the effort that you guys put into this, as well as the Historical Society and Wisconsin Historical Society. I think this is it's going to be a really great undertaking, and kind of really looking forward to seeing where it goes. Jessica, I know this is near and dear to your heart, Do you have any questions for Rebecca or the Historical Society?
Well, I had a comment and a question. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were done.
Oh, nope. Go for
Okay,
it. Comment
thank
and
you.
questions welcome.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, first of all, I'm super excited about this. I personally have done a little bit of research about who built my own home, and found out that they were living just around the corner when they bought this home. So it's always been really interesting, and my hope is that other residents will find interest in the connection of history within our village. So I think that this is a great first step to kind of get us moving along. This is just sort of a technical question. I think I saw that it will be a pro level Zoom. So I just want to make sure, that we won't like max out with the number of participants. Hopefully we'll have hundreds of people that want to participate. And I just want to make sure that somebody doesn't try to log on. I'm assuming that that's what that pro level Zoom means.
We will be using the village's Zoom account, which I believe goes up to 300.
Okay.
So I think that that's a reasonable estimate, looking at some of the largest library programs that have been out there. Have the last one, the Why Black Lives Matter, just it maxed out, I think, at 120 on its highest night. So if we use that as a comparison or structure, I think that will be okay. Or the group did talk about whether or not they wanted to do registration or the like, and we had talked about just leaving it open, so that people could attend one or all at a point they felt manageable.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I just wanted to confirm. To confirm, I thought that that's what that meant. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for April. So I think it's gonna be great.
Oh, and this is something I'm going to add on to the memo, Karen and Kathy, because I missed this, which I thought was I think one of you came up with this, but actually sending, we also wanted to send an invitation to those people who are identified in the 2011 architectural survey. And then those properties, because if you're a newer resident, you may not even know that your home, or even if you're not, you may not know that your home may have been identified as a potential
In a district.
And then there were also districts that were talked about in that survey. So the Historical Society was going to take a look at the districts and then develop outreach to those neighborhoods that were discussed, which has really been interesting for me to read. Now, after our meeting, I had more of an opportunity to start going through that lovely booklet. So.
Rebecca, a question for me. Do you feel that this will eventually lead to any sort of policy or policy changes in Shorewood?
It may or it may not. And I think that's one of the reasons why we'd like to document and get the feedback. There was a lot of different feedback that came after the demolition of the Abley home. And, depending on who you talk to, I think there was also a significant amount of confusion in terms of whether we did have whether we had an ordinance, whether there are regulations, what does it mean to be a historic property? One of the positive things that I found after working with Karen and Kathy and going through more of the history is that there are perhaps some ways that we can encourage and foster the maintenance of historic structures, but maybe not in ways that we would have traditionally thought of them before. Such as the districts, or creating more of a themed experience in terms of the different pockets of architecture that we have here in the village. So that when people do move in, they can move into this architect's neighborhood, which is reflective in these types of structures. So which, given a village of our size, to even have the opportunity to consider doing something like that is, I think, pretty incredible. So we'll see.
We also have a lot of architects that live in Shorewood right now. So it'd be fun to, get them on board as well. I know like in my block alone on Morris, I have like 5 or 6 prominent, architects right around me. So it'd be fun to really engage with those folks as well.
Wonderful.
The other thought I had is there are several historic business buildings that, you know, I mean, when I walk into the boulangerie and I mean, that's always, you know, sort of the first building that comes to mind in the business district, but there are, you know, historic business buildings that I think, you know, if there's a way we can also incorporate some of those landlords and or businesses, because I feel like they are, you know, stewards of those buildings as well. You know, even the Fiddleheads building and some of those other buildings are really special. So I think if there's a way we can incorporate and reach out to some of those businesses. I know the boulangerie knows, you know, what a special building that they're in. But, you know, I think that that might also be something that would be beneficial to the businesses to be able to talk about, you know, why you should, you know, eat here because over somewhere else, and the significance and history of that building.
And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to get at by including the outreach through the Business Improvement District, and then also reflecting on that 2011 survey, because it's not just residential. We talk about different areas of the village, and I know that the Historical Society also brings a lot of knowledge because they've looked at Oakland Avenue and some of these areas and such close, so we can also allow them to weigh in and provide that direction. But I think that's a great point, Trustee Carpenter.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, this is incredible. Thank you.
So if we think it's incredible, it would be helpful to get a motion.
Yeah, Jessica,
Sure,
I'm gonna have you make the motion, Jessica.
Sure. Am I on mute? No. Okay. No, I'm not. Sorry. I recommend approval of the 3-part educational series, a village board initiative.
I'll second that.
Do you need us to say? Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay.
I'm in favor too.
Wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And then just a motion to adjourn before we say thank you, Karen, and thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. So moved.
Bye-bye.
Second.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. All right, so next I'm going to hand it over then to, is it JP&L next, Jessica?
Yes.
Okay.
And we are,
It's
and we're on the
6:17.
same, we're on the same Zoom, right?
Same Zoom.
are.
Yep.
We
So
just
you just need to
probably-
wait 3 minutes.
Yeah, we have to wait
Yep.
3 minutes. Thanks, guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Response coordinator and victim advocate. He calls the commission announcement a
It's really funny because I typically have my son in the car with me when I listen to all these meetings on the way home. If it's a Monday at 6, he's usually in the car. So it's very entertaining, the things that he learns about the village on the way back and forth. But the last conversation we had was with Parks talking about the poop bag dispensaries, which he finds pretty hilarious.
That's too funny. I wish my kids thought it was that interesting.
He doesn't have a choice.
I wish my kids would be, but he's quiet, so mine are just
Yeah. So true. So true, Jessica.
Okay, I think we could get started at 6:20.
Yeah.
All right, so we can call the JP&L meeting to order at 6:20. There's a lot to talk about, so we will jump right in. So the first item on our agenda is considering the application for Class B intoxicating liquor and Class B malt beverage license for Ceviche at 4430 North Oakland Avenue. So Sarah, are you going to start the conversation, or do we have the owners?
I believe the applicant is on.
Okay.
Mr. Soriano, Carlos, are you on this evening?
Yes, I can see myself, but I can hear you. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
We can
Thank
hear you. Yep.
Okay, well, hi everybody.
Hi.
So we received the application from Mr. Soriano to open ceviche in what was the chocolate factory area. At this time, we have 2 liquor licenses left, so you'll be reviewing 2 applications tonight for the last 2 regular licenses. We are reviewing them in order in which they were received at Village Hall. So if there's any other questions, he does have an established restaurant in the Bayview area. I'll just open it up to the committee for any questions.
I have one question, Trustee Ursink or Trustee Amenta. I don't see Trustee Amenta.
She was off and then she fell on again. Here, let me see.
I'm just getting on my computer at home here, so why don't you go ahead with your question first, Jessica, and then I can follow that up.
Okay, great. So I just was wondering if you could maybe give us just a brief update. I looked at your business plan. It looks like the restaurant is planned to be very similar to the location in Bayview.
Yes.
Is that the plan?
Yes, it's gonna be a carbon copy of the one in Bayview. It's been working perfect. People like it the way it is. People love the food, the atmosphere. So we're gonna do exactly the same, kind of the same layout with the same, pretty much everything. The only difference will be there's gonna be an open kitchen team, and we do have Nikkei, which is a Peruvian Japanese infusion sushi. So we're gonna try to do like a Japanese or like a sushi bar, so people can actually see how we make the ceviches, the sushi rolls, all the stuff. That would be the only difference. Other than that, it's a carbon copy of the one in Bayview.
Thank you. And I just have one other question. Well, it's sort of a 2-part question. So do you guys, I guess, how have you guys been faring with COVID, and are you guys ready to expand because you feel like the end is near? And
no, personal, I don't think it has better. It got better at some point, but we're still taking a lot of measurements in Bayview safety. Even with the city, we got approval for have like more than 60%. We still only have about 12 tables inside, and they're separated by a divider. The bar is also separated by a divider in two bar person. And we did invest some money outside because we do have a parking lot. So we spend our patio and then we heat it up, but it's not enclosed. So there's a lot of air coming in and out. So that's what we did in order to do our part. We take obviously the virus pretty serious. So everybody wears a mask inside the restaurant. You're only allowed to take it out when you are sitting in front of your party. You got to put it on when you go to the bathroom or any other sense. We don't let more than 4 people in the bar, but you can have a party of 6 inside. That is your party. So to answer your question, we not think this is over. And even though tomorrow everybody go back to normal, we think we're still gonna take those procedures until we feel comfortable. Because our staff too, and I have kids, and it's everybody. It's just not, it's just not the people that come into Ceviche.
Trustee Menta or Trustee Ursink, did you guys have Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, I just want to say we're really excited to get you to come to Shorewood. This is fantastic news for us. I mean, we're always looking for new restaurants, and
Appreciate
so
it.
many good things about your restaurant in Bayview. So it's going to be exciting to get that closer to home, and really look forward to, I'd sit here and ask you a bunch of questions about your restaurant now, but I feel like, we'll just save everybody's time, and I'll come in there one day and eat some food and chat with you all when you get open. But do you have an estimate of when you think you're going to be open?
Yes, we're thinking about either June or July. We're thinking about that time.
And I know that's never something you want to ask a restaurant when they're going to open, because it never works out the way that you think.
Never that. Something always comes out. But hopefully, since it was already a restaurant, just all the pipes and the electrician are already there. So we just gotta work and put in a kitchen, a hood system, and a makeup air, and shouldn't take that long. We do gotta build a bar. So the one thing about me and my partner is we do everything ourselves. We build our own tables. We paint. We do pretty much everything that you see in Bayview is our hands. So I was telling our landlord that we're not a big company, so we can spend all this money. We pretty much do everything ourselves, and all the cooking is from my mom's recipe. So we're excited. We're excited. This is our life, so we're really excited that if you guys let us do, we're really excited to be there actually.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Trustee Menta?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify, you're going to have like a full meal, full menu, right? Like, are you going to do lunch and dinner?
No, we're just going to do dinner.
Just dinner. Okay. And Sarah, so we have 2 regular licenses that are, what is the?
We have 2 regular licenses right now, and then we have 1 reserve license. So
And
we're reviewing. Yep.
The reserve one is the $10,000 one?
Correct. So the 2 applications you're reviewing tonight would be for the regular licenses, and we're reviewing them in order that they were received into the clerk's office.
Okay. And I just had were you contacted by our bid director, or why, or did you just see the space and want to come to Shorewood?
I saw the space.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, just my follow up on the liquor license. Does Blues Eggs still have their liquor license?
Mm-hmm.
They do. Yep, that'll be something to be reviewed at approval or at renewal time this year.
Okay, thank you.
I was confused that St. Robert's was still on, or they just have a beer one now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move approval of the granting the liquor license to Ceviche. That's how you say their name.
Yeah, that's it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, welcome to Shorewood. We're excited to have you.
Oh my God, awesome. Thank you so much.
Can't wait.
Carlos.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch for next steps. Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. The next item on our agenda for our committee, sorry, hold on, trying to get there. We have another liquor license to review, which is considering the application for the intoxicating liquor and Class B fermented beverage license for ATK LLC on 4003 North Downer Avenue. So Sarah, do you want to kick this one off as well? And do we have the applicant on the call?
We do. So the clerk's office received an application from Kyle and Megan Null. They are looking to open a restaurant that they do not have a name for at this time in the old Hayek space. Kyle, I believe, is on. If you have any questions or want to give any background, feel free.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So I'll give a little background. How about that?
That'd be great.
So my wife and I, my wife is actually from Brookfield. We just moved back to Wisconsin, or she just moved back. I moved with her from New York after living there for 14 years. Both her and I have both been in the restaurant business for over 16 years, more in a fine dining capacity. I'm a chef, and she's a front of house manager. But we moved back to Wisconsin to open restaurants and raise a family. So we have a little boy that is now a year old that we just thought it was the right time to move here, and we love the area of Shorewood and hope to relocate there from where we live now in Brookfield. But the concept that we're building is a kind of chef-driven burger concept. It will have an open kitchen. It will have a small bar located in the dining room. But the menu will be pretty simple, straightforward, but mostly burgers, a vegetable sandwich, a chicken sandwich, seasonal side, and then fries and tater tots, as well as milkshakes and a full bar. That's kind of the gist of it all. If there's any questions about that or my background, I'd love to answer.
Trustee Mentor, Trustee Ursink, I have a couple questions, but yeah, do you want to go ahead, Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, again, I appreciate you guys thinking about Shorewood. It's fantastic. This is a great opportunity for us, and I'm sure it's just a great opportunity for you guys as well, starting off and starting your own business. And so really appreciate you guys looking into Shorewood. I think Shorewood, we can't get enough restaurants here in Shorewood, so it's fantastic. Just looking through a little bit of, I don't want to say your resume, but just your write-up and, the places that you've worked. I see you've worked at Gramercy Tavern. I know that that's on the very high end, but is that kind of the concept? Is that the flair a little bit that you want to bring to this shop, or is it, burgers, a little higher end version of the burgers and fries and shakes?
So it's the price point is not high like that. The price point we want it to be, the check average like $19. We want it to be simple burgers, a higher level than like Shake Shack or Culver's, but as simple and as quick as that. The idea is that it's an open kitchen, and we're kind of putting ourselves out there for everyone to see everything we do. And that's why I kind of call it a chef-driven burger concept. But we want it to be this fun place that I see kids after school having a milkshake and fries or a burger I feel like families would love to come in on the weekends and have a meal together as well. So it's like as I would call, a fast casual concept, but we want to do it in a way that's really meant to be in the neighborhood and feel like a neighborhood restaurant.
And just my final question, and there's a lot that rides on this answer. What's your favorite Wisconsin cheese?
Probably Rush Creek Reserve.
Oh, good answer. Give this man his liquor license. All right.
So the building that you guys are looking to go in obviously has a lot of historic significance.
Right.
Are you guys looking to sort of intertwine that into your business model?
Right. So kind of to start with the structure itself, we want to keep the tile, leave the ceiling open how it is now, have all the brick there. There's actually the little mural that's outside the space that's on I don't know if it's a mailbox or a power box, but it kind of, the colors in that, we want to use those colors and kind of tie it back to the feel of what the pharmacy would have felt like back in the day when it was, I don't know what you call those, like a milkshake bar. So we want to highlight as much as possible and really tie it to the history in the best way we can.
Okay, great. We just finished up a historical society call, so I think that is really something that's important. It's important to me, at least. And then also, soda fountain was, I think, what we were looking for. But yes, and the other sort of question is, if it's really family friendly, what is the need for the full liquor license? Is it do you think a beer and wine would be enough. You know, I mean, I'm a parent of 2 kids, and you know, if we're going out for a burger, even on a Saturday night, I would probably personally be fine with, you know, with a glass of wine, like just knowing where we are with liquor licenses, and we want to be as equitable as possible. You know, is that something that you might be willing to consider in the business model of just beer and wine?
I would. I think it's funny that I kind of say this, but for me, having a Bloody Mary available on a Sunday does a lot for the whole idea and concept. Not doing that, I would feel, you know, I think the idea of just beer and wine would be good, but I think being able to have a Bloody Mary on the weekend is pretty vital to the idea of what we want to do.
Okay. Okay.
And
Trustee Manta?
so is this a breakfast, lunch, dinner place or what?
So it's a lunch and dinner place. It would be from like 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I mean, I tend to agree with Trustee Carpenter. We have a limit on the number of full liquor licenses that we have. And I think it's in the best interests, our best interest, to reserve those for like full restaurants, you know. And I get that about the Bloody Mary, but you know, we'll have one left after this one, and that's the last one. And I just feel like it's better to reserve those for, like, you know, restaurants that are actually offering like a full meal, a full menu. So that's my feeling about it.
Okay.
And I would just like to sort of clarify too that me asking that by no means am I not excited for you guys to be here. You know, I think the idea of something that is, you know, high quality, well made, you know, good ingredients, that is family friendly, is something that I think, especially in that location, close, you know, in the summer, could be really, really popular with our community. You know, it's just sort of an unfortunate situation that we're in, that we have a limit. And, you know, I just want to make sure that you know that. So Trustee Ursing, I think, did you want to go?
Yeah, I just, you know, I don't think we have a ton more space in Shorewood to open up a full scale restaurant here. So, you know, and I think of places like Cloud Red that have been really successful. And I know, you know, we just heard that they want to do Bloody Marys, but I mean, are you guys opposed to will you be doing any other mixed drinks, or is it strictly Bloody Marys?
It's not strictly Bloody Marys. For me, that I think for the business, like the Saturday, Sunday brunch hours is really important for a restaurant business. And I personally, if I was going to choose to go eat somewhere, that would play a factor in where I would choose to go. So you know, in that reason, I want to be on the side of able to serve them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I assume, I think in the past, from a board perspective, hasn't it just been first come, first serve? Haven't we basically just given out liquor license on a first come, first serve basis? Isn't that correct?
No.
No? Have we turned down people recently?
Not recently, but, you know, I think there's always been, well, I think there was a feeling like we wanted dinner places. And, you know, obviously, like with Blue's Egg, that didn't work out. But yeah, there was always a feeling of, let's make sure we have, you know, at least one in reserve it for, you know, for the mythical, you know, not even fancy, but just, you know, restaurant that's serving dinner. So, I mean, we will have one left if we give this one out. I mean, the other question I had though is, do you have a lease on the property, or what's your situation with control of the property?
I have a letter from the landlord that we're looking to sign by the 10th, and that will then move into the signing the lease.
All right, would you repeat that last part again about the
I
10th?
said I have a letter of intent that
Oh, letter of intent.
yeah, the landlord and I'm signing by the 10th of March. And then that would move into obviously having the lease go through our lawyers and move forward.
I mean, I know when we were talking about that bar that wanted to open where the Irish dance place was, that there were people on that side of town who were like, enthusiastic that there was going to be a bar, closer on that side of town. So, I mean, that's definitely although I mean, I guess they're mostly on Oakland, right? I mean, it's not like they're really on one side of town or the other, but.
Yeah, it's a really exciting opportunity to get something in this space, I think, just because its proximity to the lake and the traffic of people walking to the lake. And I just think there's, to have something fill that storefront would just be fantastic for the community. So, I'm personally be in favor of giving this liquor license out.
I mean, you really have to think of like, well, we do have some empty places, and if someone wants to come and, it's like giving it to the place that's going to use it, be using it, because we're only going to have one left,
And then, so Blue's Egg is also going to be reopening as a dinner spot. So that is part of their eventual plans here in Shorewood. So that'll, hopefully that will help with the dinner scene in Shorewood.
Clerk Breckman, is there an ETA for an update from them? I want to make sure that, I'm fine with them obviously reserving their liquor license, but, to Trustee Ersing's point, I've heard that they're coming back as a dinner spot. I just want to, I think it's okay to just ask for an update.
So we are submitting their renewal forms to them in the next week or so, and we will ask for an update at that time. I know they had sent out an update like right before COVID hit last year, saying that they were going to move to a different concept, and then obviously everything kind of shut down. So that was their intent at that time. So I will follow up with what their intent is for the renewal period and provide an update to the board.
Okay. So, sorry, also Clerk Breckman. So what, if we approved the liquor license, what would be next steps for this process?
So both of these will be reviewed by the village board at the meeting on the 15th for full approval. And then there would still be one reserve left that will be coming to review at the next JP&L meeting on the 15th.
Oh, there's somebody for that one already?
There is, yep. It's a wine bar concept that's coming that is applied for that license. And so that would use all the licenses.
Wine bar being like primarily a drinking place with just snacks kind of place?
Correct.
Wow, we would have no liquor licenses left.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I just looking over the resume here, I really have a lot of faith in I think what they're presenting. Looking at what Cloud Red has done to Shorewood, it's really been a hub to the community. People come here from all over the North Shore to Shorewood to eat at Cloud Red, and I see something similar here, and I think this could be really something positive. It's a burger joint with shakes and sodas and Bloody Marys, and I think it'd be a lot of fun for the community. Something that could be a little bit more accessible for families. And it sounds like the chef has got good taste in cheese. So, I'd assume that if he's got good taste in cheese, the food and the quality is going to be, I'm saying the quality of the food's going to be pretty high.
Yeah, but Cloud Red has all kinds of food. It's a full restaurant. It's not like a burger joint. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards thinking we should just do beer and wine and a wine license. But I don't know. I mean, I don't feel super strongly about it, but I do think we're going to be in a bit of a pickle. If somebody comes and wants to open a restaurant, we're not going to have anything to offer until somebody closes and hands over their liquor license. So it's really, but on the other hand, this is the bird in the hand. So what do you think? I don't know. I think it would be prudent to have one in case, because we do have, I don't know, I haven't gone and surveyed the vacant properties, but I mean, I know we didn't, there's still the old Irish dance place, right?
No, that's a Blooming Lotus. It's a
Oh, that's a new
bakery right now. Yeah. So I mean, when you're looking at space, there's not a whole lot. You can look at up Oakland a little bit, but when you're thinking about a bigger restaurant, there's not a whole lot of stock out there. You could look at maybe whatever they're going to develop across the street at the old bank, both old banks, both North Shore banks. But I would say that any project that would warrant a restaurant would be 5 years away. I mean, no restaurants moving in there anytime soon until anything is developed. So I would say, and as we've seen, liquor licenses have kind of come up and gone away and come up and gone away, and we'll have one, and we'll have to decide if the wine bar, right now the wine bar is going to come to us, and we'll have to decide between a cool trendy burger shop that might pull people from all over Milwaukee, or a wine bar, with snacks. So, and we just have Scout Wine, and it'd be nice for people to visit there before we get another wine shop. But I mean,
What about William Ho? Did they, because they closed, right? Did they have a liquor license?
Yep, this would be actually William Ho's license.
Oh, this would be William. Okay,
Yeah.
so we do have that space, yeah.
And this might seem like if it's a wine bar, I'm just trying to think through it. It would be lovely to have an extra license. Because I do think, we're always trying to, encourage people to do business in Shorewood, but, is that even a possibility to have just a wine and beer license at a wine bar?
Not, because they have to be a full service restaurant. So it's the full service restaurant that initiates the wine license.
Yeah,
they have to have a
yes. Yep. Okay.
They definitely need the full license.
Right.
I mean, I just see the full license as being for like an actual bar or like a full restaurant, But I mean, it just means we're limited in the future.
But I also think you said it, Trustee Menta, that we have somebody here who wants to do business in Shorewood today. I think that, you got, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a tough decision, and I think supporting, their resumes are, quality food wise is really impressive. And I think personally, there is an amazing burger chain in Dallas that serves really high quality burgers that are like sort of experimental, and they did a great job. It felt super family friendly. And I mean, personally, that's what I'm hoping for. So, I think it can be done and can be executed really well. And I do think, wouldn't that be so nice to be able to walk 2 blocks from Atwater Beach and grab a burger and a milkshake?
Yeah.
That is really nice. So part of me thinks we should just approve it and
full board talk about it.
That's my
and one other note that I have, I love the story of when people, we lose so many people here in Shorewood or Wisconsin to other states like New York. I mean, they're constantly leaving New York. So when we get somebody from New York to come to Wisconsin and want to cook here, that's an awesome story. And I love to support that kind of thing as well. So, this conversation is no knock on you guys and your restaurant. We've got 1 liquor license or 2 liquor licenses left. So we have to start really being conscious. But I think in this situation, I have faith. I believe, and I think what you guys want to bring to Shorewood, and I think it would work really well in that spot, and the food would be a hit here. So
great, thanks.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve. I'll move to approve the liquor license for ATK Do I need
I'll
to
sec-
read? Yeah, okay.
I think that's okay. Clerk Brockman, do you need more than that?
Yep, that's fine. Mhm.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Just a minute. Okay, so 2-1. And then it'll go to full board
March 15th.
the
Yep.
15th. Okay,
And I'll be in contact with you, Kyle, for next steps. Okay.
Okay, thanks so much.
thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night, everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Nice to meet everyone.
You too. Okay, so hold on, let me go back. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is we have an MOU for Brown Deer Court Clerk Services. So I think, Tyler, is that for you? Wanna
Correct.
kick that off? Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll tee it up, and then Judge Margot Kirschner is on the call too. So Margot, if there's anything else that you want to reiterate when I'm done, just please let me know when I'm finished. So the memo, I think, does a pretty good job of explaining the situation we're at today. Just for a brief history of our court clerk, it used to be a 40-hour per week position that would do court operations, but also help with the police department. Back in 2017, when the position became vacant, we separated the two, where we wanted the main emphasis on court and to be as separated from the police department as possible. And that's why we moved it over to Village Hall. For an organizational review, we determined it was appropriate more at a 30-hour per week position. So we did a recruitment at that time. It was a tough recruitment, especially because it was a part-time court clerk. There aren't too many court clerks out there to begin with, and to find someone at 30 hours per week was pretty difficult. But we were really happy with Norma, who's been our court clerk since 2017. The village was informed that she's looking for full-time employment at 40 hours. Different reasons in her life that she's now looking for the 40 hours, but she has the availability from a time perspective for that now. We couldn't provide that as a village. We didn't have enough work for a 40-hour per week court clerk. And so she had another offer to be able to get that. We did not want to go through another recruitment, knowing how hard the first one was. And Norma has also done some great work in the 3+ years that she's been here. So we ended up reaching out to some of our municipal neighbors, and Brown Deer has the capacity, the workload to take on 20 hours of work for someone. So it turned out to be good timing for us that we could partner with Brown Deer, who, if we were to hire Norma on as a full-time employee, and we could contract out 20 hours of the work to Brown Deer. So as a result, we would be losing 10 hours of service with Norma here at the village. When we did a review with Norma on the current workload, we feel that with Norma's skills and now that she's been in the position for 3 years and has a really strong understanding, she has a really good relationship with Judge Kirschner, that we can make this work. And then the other 20 will go to Brown Deer. She'll still be available for court appearances, and the time that we have arranged between the two, she'll still be here on the days that we have court during the day as well, in case any questions come up before the night of municipal court. So we think from a service level perspective, things will be handled the same as they have been. And when someone comes in looking for court, and if it's outside the hours, we'll continue to do what we're doing now to letting them know when those court hours are available if they're looking for customer service. With smaller municipalities, it's common that, 40-hour per week court hours aren't necessarily available, and it's reduced because there's just not enough workload. So this is nothing different for some of the smaller municipalities. So we think this could be a really good arrangement. The only final thing I want to note, and then Margo, I'll let you comment. For the fiscal impact, I think there will be about $10,000 to $11,000 in savings through this arrangement. So that happens to be a positive too. I do explain a little bit more in detail the one risk, because I want you as a board to understand all the potential risks with a move like this. And I think the big one, or the one I wanted to note, was from a health insurance perspective. So, and that's true for any employee. I mean, Norma right now is benefit eligible at 30 hours per week, and she could take that on. I just wanted to note it because it does become more attractive. I think with the health insurance opt-out that we have right now, I don't necessarily foresee that, but it's something that I just wanted to make note as we're considering this discussion. Margo, any other comments that you would like to make?
Just to reiterate, like, the difficulties, I wasn't around back in 2017, obviously, when the last hiring happened, but when I was talking with Tyler about, the possibility of losing Norma because she had been approached by another court, and he talked about it being like a 2 to 3 month hiring, span for getting somebody new. And part of the problem in Shorewood with having just one clerk is that if that clerk's not available, there's really, my position is very part-time, and I don't have the knowledge that Norma has about processing all the cases, all the judgments, and all the payments and everything else. And we would be without somebody for probably, I think Tyler said, about 2 to 3 months. So during that time, the court may have to put a pause on court appearances and processing of a lot of things. And that's worrisome to me to have that time gap there when we don't have somebody. And I think one of the benefits of this arrangement with Brown Deere is that if Norma's sick or, for some reason is unable to make it at court date, currently we wouldn't have a backup. And it's possible that with this arrangement, we could have a backup if Norma were to, be ill one night for court. So that's another benefit too, plus not having to pause the court for several months for trying to find somebody new. And I think this is a reduction in hours for the court clerk position, and I'm confident Norma can do it. I don't know if anybody else starting the job would be able to go down to 20 hours, but I'm confident that she can because she's extremely efficient. And she and I have been looking at trying to improve even further more efficiencies for the court. So this is in line with some of the things that we're trying to streamline and make more efficient in general. So I think she can do it. And I'm confident that we can make the situation work very well, especially in light of keeping her, because she is a very good employee. And for the continuity of the court, continuing forward for the next several years, it would be great to be able to do this.
Great, thank you. Trustee Ursink or Trustee Amenta, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, so I'll defer to yourself or Trustee Amenta, but I would make the comment that I believe in having those good relationships, those working environment where you have people that you like to work with and you have confidence in. I think that's very important, and this sounds like a good fit.
Yeah,
I'll
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just make a motion to approve the agreement with Brown Deere for court clerk services.
Would second that. I think this is just a great solution to be able to retain what sounds like a really valuable employee. So unless there's a further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do I need to come back on for the full board?
Yeah, it should be noted, typically we would wait the next meeting, but for this item with the time sensitivity, we did add it to the agenda, the full board tonight. So it is on for the consent agenda. So it's just a question of, I don't know if we want Judge Kirshner to be on the call or not tonight for that item.
I mean, I think the question would just be if it were to be pulled from the consent agenda.
I'll come back on. I'll come back on for the full board just to be there.
Want to hang out with us a little more. That sounds great. All right, so the next item on our agenda, we made it right on time, amazing, is to review the next steps for open records. So Rebecca, are you going to kick that off, or is Clerk Bruckman going to?
I'd be happy to.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, and good job, by the way. My time estimates are really coming to fruition here.
And we talked for a while about the
I know.
shop, so proud of us. Good job, guys.
Wonderful. Well, at the last meeting, if you'll just look at the history section of the memo, the JP&L committee requested that staff provide a list of the top records requested from departments and frequency of that request. In addition, staff was requested to contemplate what information is requested, but we don't have records currently available for. But in such case that they could be created in 15 minutes or less, are there some documents we could create and have on there? After looking at some other communities' fee structures, it appears that some communities do make some reports and actually charge for them, depending on what it is. And I'm not saying that that's something we need to do, but it has just been an interesting exercise for me to review. The frequent flyers on those would be reports relative to building permits, reports relative to the tax roll. So just a couple that seem to come up in that review. So that's one of the things that the department heads and key services provided to you this evening, and it's attached in an Excel spreadsheet just to kind of break it down. What's interesting, once we actually asked the question and went through the exercise, is that you see perhaps areas of where we should start. Planning and development is definitely one within our building. The other would be police, which is currently undergoing review under the police organization study. And then trailing off in the distance, really the far distance, it's, we have requests relative to elections and then some with respect to email. Typically, this is going to be email correspondence between trustees. They're still infrequent, but those are some that we do get. So I thought that it's been helpful, I think, as an organization for us to go through and ask ourselves some of these questions. So as we begin to look at leaning into the work, the board can also assess who would benefit from providing this information on a more accessible basis. So that covers the frequent requested records. In that section of the memo, I also provide you an example of how it looks in a community's website when you can access the building files. I don't know if anyone had an opportunity to take a look at that. There are a number of communities who do it. The one I provided you was from Fox Point. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it. If you have, I'll stop talking about it because I want to be efficient with your time. But in essence, what happens is that the property file is scanned in and then made available. And so we have, I don't know if any of you can recall when you went back to purchase your home. I know that, one of the things that I did was when looking at homes, and if I was serious about, the purchase of a home, I pulled the building file from the local municipality to see what building permits were pulled, what was up to date, what types of things were done. Were there any architectural plans that went through it? As we were reflecting on earlier in tonight's discussion, we have a lot of historical architecture. And so one of the things that people are typically wanting to look back and see is what's in that file, what's been done to the property. So that's generating and pushing a lot of people to that area. We also have people who are taking an interest in maintaining the homes and updating them. So that's another thing that sparks that area.
Sorry, I just wanted to sort of echo that sentiment. I actually worked on a project at a home in Fox Point and used their this document keeping records, their procedure. You know, it makes, you know, not just for homeowners, but for, you know, for people who are working on homes, and it does make things a lot easier just to have that access, you know, day or night. I mean, you know, obviously COVID has changed everything, but would also make things easier, I think, for, you know, for the planning department, because, you know, Crystal wouldn't have to be requesting, you know, someone would have to request from Crystal, you know, a blueprint or a, you know, fill in the blank. You know, it's accessible at 10 o'clock at night. So I think, you know, if that is something that we can move towards, I think that is really nice. I think I know we're working on some of the data records for police, but I personally would like for that to be sort of more of a higher priority on the open records focus. And then I do think that sort of next, that the planning department updates and document availability would be really nice, similar to Fox Points. I don't know,
So
sorry.
I just wanted to follow up with one last comment on the planning and development records. So those they're sitting in files. One of the things that we have been doing over the last 2 years is when someone is on light duty or we've had additional availability at different times, they sit down with the file, they purge the file, eliminate duplicates from the file, because in order to get estimates on what that will be to scan in, we need to provide an estimate to the company in order to generate. So we've been doing that in small batches. But I think one thing the board could do is look to get that done, have a more concerted effort in terms of getting those done so that they could be scanned in. The documents are all different sizes. So you're going to have large plan scale sets, and then also just regular 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17. It's a large variety.
Trustee Ursink?
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my question essentially, is what's the cost behind digitizing all of these files with the planning department? And, you know, I guess the same would be said about the police department, but I'm looking potentially at the planning department because we have so many different types of files size-wise. Do you guys have a cost estimate, or are you saying that we just need to do a couple to see how much time it takes, and then you can kind of estimate out from there?
Right now, we've been I've been communicating with OCI, which is the same scanning outfit who scanned in the Copperdome yearbooks, and we've been going through the process over the last several months of inventorying the vault. And so the planning development was next on the list when we got that inventory done. So then we would ship out the minutes for a quote, and then we would turn our attention to planning development. I think we'd need to take some time to go through those in a bit more detail and talk with OCI about what they need to know in order to provide an estimate, because it would simply be an estimate. I'm thinking that they'll probably want to give us some sizes in terms of boxes, see how the documents are attached, how they'd be taken apart, what type of format we want them back in. And then we could generate an estimate for purposes of budget in 2022.
And just to know the scale, we're talking about every single home in Shorewood, correct? Every property in Shorewood on file?
Property. Yep. So,
yep.
So this would include residential, multifamily, commercial.
Okay.
But in essence, I think you know, when first getting here, there's rooms in the basement of Village Hall that have boxes and boxes of plans, and quite frankly, they've never been inventoried. There's a general understanding of where things are, but I'll speak for myself, who sometimes goes box diving downstairs when, you know, you're trying to locate one thing or another, and it would be, you know, it's one thing just to get a record. I mean, an inventory per se about what actually is down there, and you need that. you need that because it's not just the working on the buildings and maintaining some of these buildings, but it's trying to understand what was there before sometimes from an environmental perspective, and then how to work with the property moving forward. We're an old village, so preserving that becomes important.
Yeah.
And I do know that I don't know the exact time period, but I do know that there are a good chunk of time that all of the records are gone. There was a fire at one point. So there's, a significant amount of time that the records were lost. And I do also think that, there's no telling what could happen in the future. And so I also think like preserving these records by digitizing them is something that will ensure they are around for forever, in a way that, God forbid, there's a fire or a flood or something like that, where we have no way to recoup any of those files, and so there are homes that don't have any of the information about their structure because their information was lost in the fire. And Crystal had told me the years, so I apologize, I don't remember which ones, but so I think that's also something to think about as we're sort of talking about this.
So just for clarification purposes, because sometimes when people are looking at their home, they think that we have all the documents associated with their home. At Milwaukee County, they are actually the record holder for the plats of survey and some different legal documents associated with the parcel. So we would be focused on, of course, we could scan in anything that we did have. So by chance, there may be those documents within the scope of the file right now. But we would be focused on those items that we permit and that are required to be submitted for those permitting activities. Can I move on to email?
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
One of the other documents that came up that is sometimes requested is email documents. And so ironically, early last week, completely indifferent of the fact that we were working on open records, wanted to pull the board back to kind of talk about one of the projects that we are slating to implement right now in 2021, and that's the transition to Office 365. So in doing that, there are multiple reasons about why we're looking to do that. One of the benefits, though, that is something, and I don't need to read it for you, but that I've put within the scope of the memo, is really calling out the fact that right now we're working with an old Exchange server. So the process for going back in to pull out old email is manual. And it takes a lot longer because our IT staff literally needs to go in, find the search, copy the file over, creating this different document, and then bringing it back. So it's just the nature of the IT equipment. It's antiquated. So the village, no different than any other server that it has been rotating them through, and this one is scheduled up to come to replacement. Last year, when we were vetting out whether to actually do an additional on-site server, consider Office 365. One of the desirable characteristics about this is that the IT can actually train us in terms of how to go back and do these searches versus having their time do it. And then the process to do that is faster. So I don't want to bore you with all the details on this. It's also cloud-based. But I wanted to let you guys know about what are just some of the intricacies, because one of the things that we have talked about is that when we're making decisions on some of the IT and technology that we're looking at, is trying to look towards the future and how we go about accessing information in a more efficient way so that we can produce it more readily when those requests come in. So we were already slated to do this activity. It's an item that you approved within the budget for 2021. So we'll be moving forward with it. And last week I had sent out just an email in general to department heads and to board members about how we're going to be moving through different transitions on this throughout the course of the year. So you'll notice that, our domain is going to change for the village. Will no longer be villageofshorewood.org. We will be becoming at a point in the future villageofshorewood.com. Aligning some things to sync up to 365 to make some of these different changes and modifications. If there's
Trustee Menta.
So when we go to Office 365, are the old emails going to be moved to that system, or is it going to still be I wouldn't call it a manual process. I mean, it's all computerized, just like police. What I find a little confusing is we have computerized records, whether email or I assume that police reports are also entered onto a computer rather than written on a piece of paper. I assume. So what is puzzling to me is why, when we already have something on a computer, I know you appended 4 pages of, frankly, incomprehensible error messages, which I'm not sure what to make of that. Also, the description in the board report about what the issue is with IT of being able to retrieve our emails, I couldn't understand that at all either. But I mean, none of this is like somebody writing on a piece of paper. I mean, it's all computerized records, right?
So first, I want to apologize if what I've attached was confusing. I wanted to provide it as an example because many times people have asked us the question, well, why can't we just access this more on an easier? Why can't we get it faster? Why is it taking so much time? So what I provided you as an example was just what happens when they go in to try to get that email and why they need to change it over into a different format in order to provide it to us. That manually takes time with each email. So my apologies if that was confusing.
Okay, so when we have the Office 3, I mean, that makes no sense. But so when we have the Office 360, I mean, when we were asked for our emails personally, I went into Gmail, typed the names that we were asked to look for, and it gave me a list of, I mean, if someone asked me as trustee of my records, I would not say, oh, it's a manual process. I mean, I'd just be able to go to Gmail and look at my emails. But anyway, I'll take your word for it. My question is, when we go to Office 365, are the emails from 2020 and 2021 and back going to be easily accessible because we have this new system, or is that just going to be emails going forward and old emails are still going to be manual? Although why we would call that manual when it's already on an IT system, a computerized system, and we're paying IT people, it doesn't make any sense. But that's my question. I hope
My understanding is yes, the emails will be transferred over to Office 365. I will also verify that for you, Trustee Amenta, with IT and respond back to you with that verification to the whole committee, just so everybody's clear.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And also now the police reports, are they writing them on pieces of paper? Or I don't think so, because we pay for them to have computers in their cars. So if they have computers in their cars and they have computers at the station, why would they be writing reports? Those are also computerized. I mean, I guess this is the part that I'm having trouble with, is if something's computerized, why it takes so much time and effort to retrieve information.
I don't have access to the police reports, but I don't believe that it's an issue for them to retrieve a report. They can retrieve a report. That's one of the most frequent records that they're asked to produce. They do go through the redaction. So I think out of any department, they probably spend the most time redacting prior to producing a record. But if you'd like, I'd be happy to have the chief on a future conversation or call. He's not on the call tonight.
I guess, what is it that you're asking of us tonight?
Oh, good. I was going to get to that. It's the next one. So in the memo there, we talk about the access to records. So if you'll recall at the last board meeting, the village board approved allowing a member of the public to scan copies, not original documents, at no cost during public business hours. So after the meeting, staff reflected on the fact that very few of our documents are copies. Most of them are all originals, including documents that are redacted. So public records law relays that the redacted record produced for a public record isn't itself a record, not a copy. So reflecting on this and the board's action, staff's proceeding with the expectation that the board desires to be accommodating with these requests, whether an original record or a copy, and then provided some language that can be provided to individuals coming in to scan, copy, or photograph with their own devices to ensure that we're communicating in terms of expectations and how to proceed. So if you'll look on page 2 of the memo, there's some languages in italics, which is pretty standard, which is please handle these documents. Don't damage them from their current state. Please don't bring food and drink into the room so that they can be spilt on, so that we can, because we're also responsible for maintaining these. Most of them are all original, even if it is for the record request itself. Upon scanning of the individual docket, keeping the records in current order, of which they're currently arranged or collated, so that we're not having to go through all the other documentation to recollate and put in order. It's also noted that the village reserves the right to prohibit scanning of fragile and delicate records that may be irretrievably damaged by excess handling. An example of that, I would say, would be, our meeting minutes from the 30s or the 40s. They're, bound by string, not something that people should be touching with their bare hands because of the delicacy of the paper and the fact that it's an original record. With that in mind, one of the things that I wanted to get you to weigh in on is the fact that we haven't talked about the fact, we would provide this access for scanning on site, which is great, but what happens if the requester doesn't follow the protocol and either a record is destroyed, whether that be accidental or otherwise, or they're somehow, mixed up through this process of scanning in. We didn't know if the committee had any thoughts on that or how we'd like to proceed as we're thinking through how to implement that action. So wanted to get your feedback.
Trustee Ursink, I'm going to call on you, and then Jeff Davidian, I do see that you have your hand raised, so we will get to you in just a moment.
I just kind of follow up a little bit on that, just so somebody will be in a room with a scanner going through all these records under kind of no supervision, correct? So they have the ability to sit down with these documents, unsupervised, and scan these documents. Maybe some documents are a little bit more sensitive. Obviously, they're all public, but what's to say somebody, can't change something on the document, or that can't erase something if something's done in pencil. There just seems like, there could be a lot of issues here with people just unsupervised going through these documents. But at the same time, if you're going through thousands of documents, that's somebody that has to sit there for all of that. And that also takes time. So, I'd be interested to see what everybody else thinks about what would be a penalty for ruining a document. I wouldn't even know where to start with that. So Rebecca, do you have is there other community, have you researched what maybe other communities do as far as this is concerned?
Well, I think like some of the ways that we're trying to explore accommodating, this is many times why municipalities will provide the copy in hard copy versus having someone else come in with their equipment. Yeah. So no, it's not a standard that you're going to see, at least that I haven't in the policies that we reviewed so far and that we've included within your packet. So I don't have a precedence to go off of, and which is why I'm also asking the question. I'm just, it's I think it's great that we're doing this. It's also just good that we all know the expectations. Yeah,
you might have somebody like Mr. Davidian that's really careful with documents that nothing ever happens, but you might also have somebody that's a little bit more irresponsible, and then you're starting to see a little bit more wear and tear on a lot of these documents if there's a lot of frequency of usage, and you know, accidents happen all the time, and you know, I just gives me pause a little bit to think that you know, that this could go by unsupervised. So
thank you, Trustee Ersing. Jeff Davidian, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, Jeff
Hi.
Davidian, 4101 North Prospect. Thank you for having this discussion. I'd like to answer a couple of questions that trustees have raised. The first one is, if somebody has a copy of a record, it's not the original, although it is a record. What we might do is approach it from in two ways. From here forward, if we scan records rather than keep them in paper, we create a new world, and we don't have to worry about people changing records. That's what they've done with the PACER in the federal courthouse, in the federal court system. All of the records are available online. They take them and they scan them, or they file them electronically. The same in Milwaukee County Court and in the Wisconsin court system. They have the statewide directory of all of the cases that have been filed. You don't have to get the paper. But if you want the paper, then they scan it and they put it up and they give you a copy of the scan. Nobody gets an original. You can't erase something on a record, on a copy of a record. You can't erase an electronic record. You only have the copy of it. And what's to keep somebody from altering a record? Will it be against the law? It's a crime. It's the same thing that keeps people from killing people. It's a crime. You go to jail, or you pay a fine. I don't think that that's something that's going to happen looking at police records, because it's a copy. One way to help you keep to make sure that the paper doesn't go bad, or that in the scanning process is damaged, is to have a standard of kind of paper that you use. Don't use cheap paper. If you're going to make a copy, make it on a quality of paper that can scan, and not and not the cheapest paper that you can get. Another way to help yourselves produce records: when somebody makes a record request, you're copying them first and then redacting them. Why don't you scan them first? There's no paper used. Then you have the scanned complete set of all of those records that somebody has asked. They're in the order that you want. If something gets out of order, you have them in the original way that they exist. There's also something called bait stamping that numbers each piece of paper in that file and gives it a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or however it wants to be. So if they get out of order, they're numbered in order. So there are ways to approach it when you gather the information to make it easy for you to retrieve. And all of the issues that could come up are without a doubt numerous, but the state says records are public. And what's the best way to do that is maybe to think from now on to begin to scan. And then as people want the older records, if they want them, scan them then. You don't have to scan all the old ones now. If nobody ever wants them, you never have to scan them. So thank you very much. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Trustee Ersing.
You know, and I there's a lot of merit to that, Mr. Davidian. I just think that also adds another complexity to our village. Is, you know, we're talking about an IT system that we've got these antiquated servers, you know, so if we do decide to do that, we are going to have to invest heavily into our digital resources here in the village to make sure we have up-to-date servers, to make sure we have cybersecurity. And if we've got a file in a box, you know, the only way that gets damaged is somebody comes in and spills something, rips it, a fire, you know, that sort of thing. But if somebody, you know, things get deleted off servers all the time. And if that happens, then, you know, there might not be, you know, there might not be another copy unless we have, we're still using boxes of paper. So, you know, I think there's just a lot to think through, and you've got to, you know, I know this is, you know, I mean, this is something you think about a lot, and I really appreciate your insight, you know, but we've got to also play devil's advocate and think, what if this, what if that? And And I think that's just the process right now. So I think you're onto something. I think it's smart. It's the way everybody's headed. It's the way we've got to head as a village. But with that, we also have to improve on our IT capabilities and the whole, you know, digital infrastructure we have at our village. And it sounds like we're headed in that direction here.
Trustee Menta?
Yeah, I mean, we have an obligation to provide open records, and I don't think we can hide behind antiquated IT systems as an excuse for a lack of transparency. But it is 7:30, and I move to adjourn.
Second. Well, maybe can we give Jeff just a response here to?
Well, just a moment before Jeff speaks. What are our next steps? Because I would like to continue to move the open records process forward.
We're coming back to you at the next meeting with the discussion on fees.
Okay, and then yes, Jeff, if you quickly can make your comment before we head to the full board.
Thank you very much. I would like you to remember that they also said to me, you may not even take a picture of a piece of paper. That goes beyond worrying about the quality, the status of the paper. It says you may not have a record of this record. You cannot take a picture of it. That is beyond worried about how the record will be treated. That's not wanting you to have it. Thank you.
Thank you. If we can plan to come back to the question about damaging records too.
Sounds good.
We didn't get to finish that. So we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. See you soon.
We're going to roll right into it, or do we have 2 minutes here?
Yeah, can we have like 2 minutes?
2 minutes would be good.
I would
Sure,
have to get on and start it anyway, so it'll take a few minutes. So
Okay.
I would love to
Okay,
start it
all right.
over.
Thanks, Sarah.
Just let everybody know that we're just taking 2 minutes and we'll be back. That'd be awesome.
fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.